The Diesel Brothers empire, once a titan of television and trucks, was being sold for parts. Heavy D stood in his massive Utah shop, surrounded by millions of dollars in custom vehicles and heavy equipment, and told the world he was selling everything. Fans were shocked. Rumors started to fly. Had the pressure of fame and fortune finally destroyed the brotherhood at the heart of the show? For the first time, the real story behind the split is coming out, and the truth is far more complicated and dramatic than anyone ever knew. An empire on the auction block. It all started with a video that sent shockwaves through the truck world. Dave Sparks, better known as Heavy D, announced a massive garage sale at his shop, Sparks Motors. This was no ordinary sale. He said everything had to go, even personal items he swore he would never part with. He vaguely explained that big changes were coming to the business and he needed to clear out space. But fans watching the video noticed something was off. Heavy D's body language was not that of a confident businessman making a bold new move. Viewers described him as looking extremely on edge, nervous, and shaky. This was not the bold and fearless leader they had watched for years on Discovery Channel. This looked like a man under immense pressure. People began to wonder what was really going on. Was the business failing? Was he getting a divorce and having to sell his assets? The questions piled up, but answers were hard to find. Then, things got even stranger. Just as the massive sale was getting underway, it was suddenly postponed. The reason given was just as vague as the first announcement. An official statement blamed a mysterious group of people who would love to see them fail, creating the image of an outside enemy trying to sabotage their success. But this story did not add up. The truth was hidden in court documents, and it painted a much darker picture. The sale was not stopped by haters or business rivals. It was stopped by a judge. A court order was issued that explicitly prohibited Heavy D from transferring or moving any of his property, real or personal. The reason was simple and devastating. He still owed millions of dollars in penalties from past lawsuits, and the court was not going to let him sell off his assets before those debts were paid. The everything must go sale was not a strategic plan for the future. It was a desperate attempt to raise cash before the courts could take everything. The confident narrative of big changes was just a cover story. The unstoppable empire was not just in trouble, it was being cornered by the law. But what had they done to get into this much trouble? The answer lay in two separate, catastrophic legal battles that attacked the very heart of their brand and their business. The $1 Million Sins. The court order that shut down the garage sale was not the beginning of the Diesel Brothers' problems. It was the explosive result of years of legal battles fought on two different fronts. These were not small fights. These were multi-million-dollar wars that threatened to destroy everything they had built. The first war was against their very identity. The Diesel Brothers became famous for building huge, powerful trucks that often featured giant clouds of black smoke pouring from the exhaust. This practice, known as rolling coal, was a signature part of their rebellious bad boy image. But in 2016, a group called Utah Physicians for a Healthy Environment, or UPHE, decided to fight back. They filed a lawsuit against the Diesel Brothers for violating the Federal Clean Air Act. The doctors argued that the Diesel Brothers were illegally removing pollution control equipment from their trucks. This made the vehicles look tough on camera, but it also turned them into what the doctors called disease-generating machines. A truck modified by the Diesel Brothers could produce over 30 times the amount of harmful pollution as a normal truck. The doctors group even bought one of the Diesel Brothers' trucks and had it tested. The results were shocking. It emitted 36 times more pollution and 21 times more particulate matter than a stock truck. The lawsuit specifically named Heavy D, Diesel Dave, and two other key members of the crew, Keaton Hoskins and Joshua Stewart. The legal battle raged for years. The Diesel brothers argued they were just building trucks for fun and did not fully understand the impact on air quality. But the court did not agree. A judge found them guilty of hundreds of violations of the Clean Air Act. The appeals court later called their actions flagrant misconduct. The financial blow was staggering. They were hit with an initial fine of over $850,000. On top of that, they were ordered to pay the doctor's legal fees, which added almost another $1 million to the bill. In total, their signature style of rolling coal cost them nearly $2 million. But as bad as that was, the second war was even bigger. While they were fighting the doctors over pollution, they were also being sued by a global fashion giant. The Italian clothing brand Diesel S.p.A. filed a massive lawsuit against them for trademark infringement. The fashion company argued that the Diesel brothers were illegally using the word diesel in their company names, like Diesel Power Gear and Diesel Cellars, and on all their merchandise. One particularly blatant example was a shirt that read Diesel AF in a red box, which looked almost identical to the fashion brand's famous logo. This was a direct attack on their business model. The TV show made them famous, but they made a fortune selling clothes and gear. The court found that the Diesel brothers had ignored cease and desist letters from the fashion brand and continued to sell their merchandise. They had made nearly $60 million in net sales from products that the court said were confusingly similar to the fashion brand's products. The judge found that their infringement was willful, meaning they knew what they were doing was wrong. The final judgment was a knockout blow. The Diesel brothers were ordered to pay an incredible $11.8 million in damages. Their fame had become a double-edged sword. Being on television made them rich and famous, but it also painted a giant target on their backs. Smaller shops might get away with modifying trucks or using a common name, but the Diesel brothers were doing it in front of millions of people on the Discovery Channel. They were the biggest and most visible players in the game, which made them the biggest and most obvious targets for lawsuits. Their celebrity status, the very thing that built their empire, was now the reason it was all coming crashing down. But before the lawsuits, before the fame, and before the millions of dollars, there was just a friendship between two guys who loved trucks. Before the storm. To understand how things went so wrong, you have to go back to a time when things were much simpler. Before the TV show and the multi-million-dollar lawsuits, there was just Dave Sparks and Dave Kiley. They were not actually brothers, but their bond was just as strong. Their story began about a decade ago at a church event for young single adults. They were supposed to go there to meet girls, but as they later joked, they found each other instead. It was bros at first sight. Heavy D came from a tough background. His father suffered from a brain tumor for 20 years, and the family faced many challenges. At one point, they were even homeless and lived in a van for 6 weeks after his father was medically discharged from the military. Watching his father persevere through constant health issues gave Heavy D an incredible work ethic. He learned that no matter how many times life knocks you down, you just have to get back up. This mindset would become crucial later in his life. A memory from when he was 7 years old stuck with him forever. He and his siblings had saved up money for a trampoline, but one day the money was gone. His mother explained she had to use it for groceries. In that moment, he decided he would never let his own family experience that kind of pain. From a young age, Heavy D was obsessed with anything that had an engine. He studied auto mechanics and welding in high school and later started his own small excavation business, operating heavy equipment. In 2008, he needed help, so he hired his best friend, Diesel Dave, as his very first employee. This was the official start of their partnership. Diesel Dave also had a unique path. He was born in Texas and moved around a lot as a child because his father worked on military bases. He later served a 2-year mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Portugal, where he became fluent in Portuguese. When he returned, he was working odd jobs with no real direction before Heavy D called him up to come work with him again. Together, they started a small used car lot and a website called dieselsellers.com, which would become the world's largest marketplace for diesel trucks. They began posting videos of their work on YouTube, but these were not boring repair videos. They were filled with crazy stunts, hilarious pranks, and incredible custom truck builds. Their energy and passion were contagious, and their videos quickly went viral. Their online fame caught the attention of Jay Leno, who featured one of their clips on his show. Soon after, the Discovery Channel came calling, and in 2016, the show Diesel Brothers premiered. The men behind the beards. While Heavy D and Diesel Dave were the faces of the show, the crew was much bigger. 2 other key members, Keaton Hoskins and Joshua Stewart, were essential parts of the team and were also named in the pollution lawsuit. Keaton Hoskins, known as the Muscle, was the master at finding rare parts. He had been friends with Diesel Dave since the 8th grade and came from a family of diesel fanatics. But beyond the shop, Hoskins was a serial entrepreneur. By his mid-30s, he had started and operated over 22 different companies, including gyms, a dental office, a plastic surgery clinic, and an apparel company. He built an 8-figure business empire, all while being a devoted husband and father to 4 daughters. His personal motto is that anyone can be limitless, and he even started a coaching program called the Limitless Society to help others achieve their goals. Joshua Stewart, or Redbeard, was the quiet money man of the operation. He grew up on a Native American reservation in Utah, which gave him a deep sense of connection to nature and spirituality. He believed that working for someone else was not secure, which fueled his drive to be an entrepreneur. While he was a key part of building the Diesel Sellers brand, his presence on the show began to fade over time. His quiet departure left many fans wondering what happened, but no official reason was ever given. He seemed to prefer a more private life, focusing on his family, new business projects, and his passion for jiu-jitsu. Life on the show. The show was a massive hit because it was more than just building trucks. It was about a group of friends having fun, pulling crazy pranks, and attempting unbelievable stunts. The pranks were legendary, from snatching a friend's truck with a tow truck to faking putting diesel fuel in a gas car. The stunts were even bigger. In one of the most memorable moments, Heavy D planned to jump his monster truck, the Brodozer, over a flying airplane on live television. Their creativity was best seen in their incredible builds. They turned a rusty 1948 Willys Jeep into a modern monster in the very first episode. They built Hercules, a massive Chevy truck lifted 11 feet tall on giant Axletech axles. They created the Mega Ram Runner from a Dodge Ram 3500, stretching the cab to an insane length and lifting it almost 28 inches off the ground. They even built a somersault truck, a vehicle with a special egg-shaped cage designed to do a full forward flip. These were not just trucks. They were works of art that pushed the limits of what was possible. But with the fame came more controversy. In an early episode, a truck accidentally caught fire off camera. The crew thought it would make great TV, so they decided to recreate the fire for the show. However, the planned fire got out of control, causing real damage. In another incident, the crew posted a video of them crushing dozens of old Datsun and Nissan Z cars. Car fans were furious, accusing them of destroying classic vehicles for views. Heavy D had to post an apology video explaining that the cars were already rusted out, wrecked, or stolen and could not be saved. These moments, combined with the lawsuits, began to build a narrative that the fun-loving guys on TV might be more reckless than they appeared. The real breakup. With millions of dollars in fines piling up from 2 different lawsuits, many fans assumed the immense pressure would tear the friendship between Heavy D and Diesel Dave apart. It is a classic story in the celebrity world. Money and legal troubles often destroy even the strongest bonds. But the real breakup that happened was not between the 2 Daves. The true split was between the Diesel brothers and the Discovery Channel. The end of their hit TV show in 2023 was not a cancellation. It was a choice. After years of fighting in court, Heavy D finally told Discovery that he and his team were done. The reason was simple. The lawsuits had changed everything. The fun, freedom, and creativity that had defined their show were gone, replaced by fear and constant legal oversight. The Clean Air Act lawsuit had made Discovery's lawyers extremely nervous. Every episode had to be watched and approved by a legal team to make sure nothing on screen could lead to another fine. The days of outrageous, rule-breaking builds were over. The show that was built on a rebellious image was now being forced to play it safe. Fans noticed the change immediately. The builds were less exciting, and the episodes started to feel different, more controlled. The final straw came in 2021. The team had filmed an entire episode that had to be completely scrapped and thrown away. The reason was that it showed an exhaust modification that the legal team thought looked illegal. They were not even sure if it was actually against the law, but the mere possibility was enough to kill the whole episode. For Heavy D, this was a creative prison. The very thing that made their show special, pushing the limits and building incredible machines, was now forbidden. The lawsuit's greatest victim was not their bank account, it was their creativity. The constant threat of legal action had a chilling effect on the entire production, sucking the life out of the show from the inside out. They were faced with an impossible choice. They could either continue to make a watered-down, boring version of their show for the network, or they could walk away and reclaim their freedom. For Heavy D and his crew, the choice was clear. They chose freedom. The split from Discovery was not a failure, it was an escape. The Brotherhood had survived the storm, but their television show had not. The financial fallout. The legal battles came at a tremendous cost. The final bill for the Clean Air Act lawsuit was around $850,000 in fines, plus nearly another $1 million in the doctor's legal fees, bringing the total to almost $2 million. The trademark lawsuit was even more devastating, with a final judgment of $11.8 million. Combined, the crew was on the hook for well over $13 million. During the pollution lawsuit, the doctors group argued that Heavy D was far from broke. They presented evidence showing he had deep assets not reflected on his personal tax returns. They pointed out that he owned a helicopter and 2 planes, was building a 7,500 square foot home, and had ownership in 13 different companies. They claimed he represented himself as a multimillionaire who could turn a $75,000 ad spend into $750,000 in revenue in a single month. The Diesel brothers' lawyers argued that such massive penalties would devastate their businesses and force them into bankruptcy. But the court did not fully agree. The judge made it clear that the fines could not be avoided or discharged in bankruptcy, ensuring the debt would follow them no matter what. This crushing financial weight was the real reason for the Everything Must Go garage sale. After the fall, the show was over. The shop was nearly sold off. The Diesel brothers, as the world knew them, were gone. So what happened next? Did the friendship between Heavy D and Diesel Dave finally break under all that weight? The answer is no. Through all the chaos of the lawsuits and the end of their TV careers, their bond remained as strong as ever. They are still close friends and business partners today. The end of the show was not the end of their story. It was the beginning of a new chapter. They decided to go back to their roots, returning to YouTube as their main platform. On YouTube, they could be themselves again. They could be more authentic, showing the real day-to-day work of their shop without a team of lawyers looking over their shoulders. They were free to build what they wanted, how they wanted. Heavy D, in particular, has made a surprising and strategic pivot. He is now the CEO of Sparks Motors and has started a new company called EMBR Motors. This new venture is focused on the future of hydrogen and electric off-road vehicles. In a move full of irony, the man who has fined millions for polluting the air is now trying to build a new legacy in the world of zero-emissions vehicles. The centerpiece of this new mission is the Nikola Badger, an electric and hydrogen-powered pickup truck. The project was abandoned by its original company, Nikola, after its founder was convicted of fraud. But Heavy D bought the rights and has announced his intention to finish what they started and bring the truck to market. It is a bold move and a clear attempt to rehabilitate his brand. The man famous for rolling coal is now betting his future on clean energy. Diesel Dave, meanwhile, has taken a different but equally important path. While still building trucks, he has also become an ambassador for skilled trades. He and Heavy D have formed a new partnership with Wyotech, a technical college, to inspire the next generation of mechanics and builders. Diesel Dave, the fun-loving personality of the show, is now focused on education and mentorship. The crisis they faced did not break them. It forced them to evolve. The destruction of their single TV brand pushed them to build new, more independent careers. They still collaborate, but they are no longer just the Diesel brothers. They are Dave Sparks, the visionary entrepreneur, and Dave Kiley, the passionate brand ambassador. The empire fell and the TV show ended, but the brotherhood at its core was never the thing that split. The fire of their legal battles did not burn their friendship to the ground. Instead, it cleared the way for two new separate paths to grow. It was a painful and expensive lesson, but it proved that their bond was the one thing they built that was truly made to last.